All right, everyone. Welcome to our 9th Release Management Think Big session. We actually have a guest here. Hi, Michael, from the Tech Evangelism team. He's going to sit in and watch our Think Big session kind of go down. Michael has been an incredible partner when he was a customer of ours, especially in the release management section. So I'm really excited to have him kind of join here. Okay, so last meeting, we were very focused on the editing of the release page and building out that UI experience. We also talked a little bit about deploy freezes. In this Think Big session, I would like us to take a look at our CICD dashboard issue. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can walk through a couple of different things on this. So first, I had a call with a couple of different users to talk a little bit about two main issues. The first issue that users are citing are the inability to manage things across multiple projects. So the heart of this issue is multi-project users that are looking to monitor things like releases, pipelines, quality across multiple repositories. So in today's world, a lot of our customers, a portion of our customers are using the environments dashboard to triage failed issues. But the environments dashboard, for people who have a lot of projects and a lot of environments, this is rendered unusable. So they're only able to filter on 7 projects with 3 environments per project. So what we're hoping to accomplish is a simpler group level view for somebody that's in a management position or potentially a release manager who's coordinating across multiple teams. I built this really crummy lo-fi dashboard. Please don't laugh. If you're gonna laugh at me, hide your screen. I'm a sensitive person. And I spoke with Hyana a little bit on this, but really, and I'll link this in the issue as well or in our Think Big session. You already did that, Hannah. Thank you. And what we're thinking is we would start aggregating metrics that are currently available at the project level. So we have a lot of the pipeline information already available at a pipeline view. And then we would start landing more meaningful metrics about releases. And then I have this tile here for either runners or code coverage, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts on one, the problem statement. I am a user that is managing across multiple projects. I want to be able to see the most important things about CICD. And then we can kind of iterate on interactions that you would expect to see from this dashboard. I'm going to stop talking now. Would love to hear your thoughts. And welcome, John. Hi, Nathan. How are you? We're diving into the CICD dashboard issue that is currently queued up for 13.1. It'll probably be 13.2 since our free milestone will be in 13.1. But I wanted to kind of think big on this. And this can be us looking at this initial lo-fi and kind of picking at it, or thinking about future iterations. So what do you guys think about that problem?
Let's look at your design right now and let's talk through it and see what do you guys think? Like, is this useful? Would this be useful? What other information here should be here? What information shouldn't be here? These are the questions we ask ourselves in an existential way on a Tuesday morning.
Putting myself in the director's shoes, I think this would be pretty slick to be able to come in here and get a snapshot of exactly kind of what's going on in my area. So I could think of this as like, and I haven't read through the issue yet, apologies, but I could think of this as like, this is my group. Let's say I have a group created with a few projects underneath of that. I could think of this as coming in and seeing a snapshot, right, of that group and everything that's going on within that group. Without having any more detail besides that, that sounds pretty great to me.
One thing that I'm constantly plagued with is the idea of visibility versus actionability. So today I wanted to display things that would give people, one, a high level view of how things are today, and then provide trends over time so they could see how does today compare to how things have been. And then this click into the triage moment. So my current state is on fire. I'm going to go down to this view here and see, oh my gosh, okay, well, actually I've been on fire for the past couple of months. Maybe it doesn't matter. Here's my last 5 pipelines that have been failed. I'm going to click into that and then get into that project and start moving. But going back to kind of like Lori's questions, what other information should be here? If you're a director, what would you actually expect to see when you land here, even as a developer? Because given this would be a default group view, what are ways that we can serve multiple audiences within the same group?
What about, I'm trying to think. So we have pipelines covered. We have, what is the other one? Code coverage covered. That's what I was thinking about. I'm wondering if it'd be nice to see in an overall, like maybe like some throughput here, like how many merge requests have we, like everything tagged within the milestone, percentage complete, something like that. That might even be on here. Sorry, I'm trying to not look and think. Trying to think without looking.
That's really good. So if we're to like kind of think way out in the future, I could see a user wanting to toggle this view from things that I've contributed on versus everything in the group. Would that be something that you would use as a developer?
I would use that.
Thank you.
And is there any other context around when you might use it, why you might use it? Because I don't do what you do, so any good context is good for me.
And I think, John, you're probably the closest thing that we'll have to somebody that needs to manage multiple teams, because you have a GitLab project, you have the Pages project, you have the release CLI tool that we have in a different project. What would be the most meaningful things from your perspective? You kind of alluded to throughput needing to be on here.
Yep, that could be cool. Yeah, I'm thinking, trying to think quickly, Jackie, of like what else would be really helpful to come in here and just get a snapshot of. It might be nice to see, like, for each, I'm still thinking of throughput, like each individual project that I'm interested in, or that I have an interest in, maybe seeing the open, a little more throughput details for each of those. So like maybe throughput broken down by project is what I'm trying to get at, something like that. Yeah. It'd be nice to get some insight into, like, this is probably way too detailed, but it'd be cool to get some insight into, where kind of like each person is also at this point in time. Like I'm looking at Nathan. Let's say Nathan has 3 issues in dev. It'd be cool to see, whoa, that's a lot in dev at one time. Maybe this isn't the right place for that, but that could be a cool thing too. Sorry, Nathan, not picking on you, I saw your face. So.
Yeah. So I think whenever I look at CICD and then I look at productivity, we have productivity metrics already available. So when we look at issues, you're able to kind of see how issues are, created versus closed. And then if we were to look at the group level, you're able to see like a greater value stream, like throughput view. So I think this is already kind of here, but maybe finding a way to cross-link them so that we're able to bounce people between that infinity of a release back to plan, like in our DevOps cycle, being able to put people upstream of the release stage could be useful.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if it, if it would be helpful to, you're saying, along with cross-linking, Jackie, but maybe even just like things we already have exist to your point, like maybe just making those easier to see altogether, or
Discoverability, yeah.
Yeah, or a subset of the current functionality in this dashboard, something like that.
Okay, that's helpful. So getting kind of more technical about this view here, are there some issues that I should create from like investigation on how real time these metrics will be, or are there things like I've built dashboards before that weren't very performant, and as a result I would have stale dashboards for like 36 hours before they refreshed? Are there things that we should be considering with this amount of data being pulled into this single dashboard? I'd love your thoughts on that. And poor Sean, he's not here. He'd be a good person to like ask that question to.
Yeah. I mean, just from prior experience, I would say it's definitely something we should keep in mind. But yeah, Sean might be a good person to weigh in on that.
I would say you should cache basically everything which is historical. So the last 5 field pipelines in a group and some listings. This is something which could be like heavy in updating it in a 10-second interval or something like that.
That's helpful. Thank you. Okay. I think we've spent about 10 minutes on this. We have a couple of other topics, so we're going to go ahead and pivot to, I think, one item. Nathan, you had an issue open about combining the package and releases page. Do you want to talk a little bit through that?
Yeah, it actually began more as a, I was thinking through a way to make versions or releases versioned more than they are today. Because right now you can name tags whatever you want. There's no like version requirement. And we could unlock a lot of things by enforcing a semantic version that you associate with a release. And then that got me thinking, they already do that in package, for example, for NPM packages. And it might make a lot of sense to either combine or at least show content from packages on the release page or vice versa. Because really, if you're publishing a package, that's kind of by definition a release. And it makes sense to show that on the releases page. And there's like a lot of different ways you could go with that. You could merge the pages, you could have them separate and then list packages in addition to the releases page, or maybe you could associate releases with packages. Yeah, there's tons of different ways you could go with that. But that's kind of just a really high level thought that there's a lot of crossover that we're not really exploiting that opportunity right now.
I love that. Because I think you're completely right that we could increase the adoption of both the releases page and the packages page if there was at least even minimally cross-linking between packages that have been published. But I do feel like there is value in reducing the places that people go to consume the same thing. So it might be worth combining those. I agree. What do we feel like are the limitations of those being combined?
I think one of the things that the package team mentioned was just that the audience that's looking at the package page versus the release page might be different. Like there might be things that you're going to the package page for that wouldn't make as much sense on the releases page. So it might still make sense to keep them separate just because you're thinking you're kind of doing different work when you're looking at those pages. But other than that, I don't think there's too many limitations. It's more just figuring out like how we can help the user and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So the job to be done here is really focused on when a package is published, I want to have visibility for that package in the same place where my other releases are going to be, so that I can avoid jumping between two pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Look at me just coming up with jobs to be done on the fly. Ayana, what would you say is a good next step on this? Do you think that we should consider connecting with Ian and Tim to talk a little bit more about this job to be done, and consider queuing it up for a future validation?
For sure, let's do that. Maybe we can, yeah, we can definitely bring this to the cross-functional ThinkBig session, but let's start async and see where are the low-hanging fruits here. And also Dimitri, Dimitri just joined the Verify release team, UX, and he has some experience. I think it would be nice to also involve him, because he was the DRI for package before Ian.
We also gotten more interest in having helpful version hints in the UI. So Kenny submitted this issue that he would like to have a pre-populated list of or a suggestion or a tag. These names have been used before, so here's the next steps. There might be an MVC that we can solve for sooner before adding first class versioning to releases. But I also think there is a problem here when people go and create a release from a tag and they don't know what to name it because they don't know what they've named previous things. And there's other tools out there that I know people are using. So they've created scripts to populate. Runner's one of them. There's a couple of other customers that have done that. So maybe this is something that we can just implement easily.
Another idea I was just thinking of is that for certain types of projects, like an NPM package or basically mostly packages, if your project is a package, we could, for common types, we could parse, for example, the package.json and pull out the version, the current version, and suggest that as a tag name. Oh. And that could cover a lot of, a big portion of people's use cases. So that might be a way to give that to a lot of users. It wouldn't be foolproof because who knows, you might be using some package manager we don't support, but it could be useful for some people.
I like that. Okay. And then Vlad also submitted this idea of adding a version to release evidence. So unfortunately, Sean isn't here because he's on vacation. He'd be the best person to kind of iterate on this with. But the idea of this is there could be multiple release evidence versions in addition to our version of a release, especially for premium customers who are leveraging our on-demand release evidence collection. Something to think about is also how we want to display this on the releases page, because today the releases page is beautiful, but when we click into the actual view, we may want to have different information. So for example, the actual release landing page might end up being metrics about the project's releases with a list of all the tags that are created. And then when you click into that tag, that's where you get the release notes like this and the source code and release evidence. But if we do choose to create more advanced versioning support for both release evidences and releases, we'll need to kind of figure out a way to make that look clean inside the UI. Because I could see that getting really confusing if people have, evidence collection and then multiple versions under that.
We have, is this in under our epic for usability of the release page? Because we can already add this to the scope.
This one? Or the semantic versioning?
Yeah, just, yeah, they're not there yet. Not here. I'm just gonna add
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Look at this. This is fancy. Not very colorblind friendly though. Okay. So from an update to you all on this call, Hyan and I are going to start investigating the fork of release project views, group views, because we're eventually going to support releases to be associated by group milestones. So we'll need to be able to support releases at the group level, and then the view page. So I don't want us to have to add a bunch of stuff to both pages, the project view page and the actual release view page. So this will be a really important epic for all that stuff.
One side note, this is kind of a tangent, but if we are going to add a group level release page, which I think would be cool, we will need to solve the issue, or we'll need to break the tag to release association, because there won't necessarily be otherwise we'll be pointing to a specific tag in a specific project.
And actually, I'm thinking the group page will be metrics. It'll be a dashboard.
Oh, okay.
So it'll just aggregate the information. So you won't be able to create a release at the group level. You'll still create it at the project level, but you'll be able to associate it to a group milestone, which I think is the only thing that's actually renderable anyways at the group level. Like there aren't really issues at a group. There aren't really, the only thing that you can associate at the group level is a milestone. So I think it's going to be a dashboard view from a usability standpoint. Like our CICD director dashboard could then link to the releases dashboard.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense. So would we pull releases from the projects and display them on the group one?
Yeah, that'd be my hope.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, in that case, then we don't necessarily need to address that.
Although I do feel like this conversation always comes up, the whole tag and releases relationship. Kenny, in his walkthrough, he was like, I just want to create a release. And he kept saying that over and over again. And I was like, oh, okay. I wonder how many other users are asking for that. Just, I want to create a release and I want to associate a bunch of things to the release. And then I want to commit my tag to it as an afterthought. They don't really want to commit a tag to the release at the same time. And that kind of also means, like, we've talked about this before, we could choose to say that the releases have an immutable tag and therefore you have to generate a new release with every update that you have. Or we can say that you have the ability to like change the tag of that release. And that feels like it opens up a lot of different nuances, but you're absolutely right that we eventually need to kind of make a decision and commit on it. I feel like we kind of look at the whole tags and releases relationship and haven't made a decision yet. We're going to have them be the same thing, but questions keep coming up for that. Nathan, I saw your issues for our free milestone and I kind of giggled because they're all in like release pretty much. I was very happy. I was like, he really wants to work on release stuff. This is awesome.
It's all stuff like quality of life stuff that I do, like I work with every day. So I might as well just power through them and make the next milestones easier.
Love it. Hannah, do you want to talk a little bit about any of the findings that you're collecting on the maturity scorecard work that you're doing? I know you've been very focused on that, so I'm wondering if you kind of want to like walk us through what you've been seeing, any trends or anything like that. It may be a repeat of what we already hashed out with this group, but that might just be interesting to share from your perspective. And I'll stop sharing my view.
Let me find that out. I don't think the organization of the file and the structure is going to make a lot of sense. But let me try walking you through what we are doing and why we are doing the maturity scorecard. I think that's also super valuable. Let me share my screen. Can you folks see?
Yes.
All the steps, my God, hold on. Okay. For those who don't know, we've been tasked, we as in release management and other teams, other groups, were tasked with validating the maturity of our product. So if I go here, I think it's here. Yeah, this is the design OKR, where we need to pretty much validate the maturity of a product based on user insights and user findings. So not only on the offering that we have in numbers of capabilities, but also how users are reacting to it, doing user interviews, collecting data, and then we follow a process. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, where we give a score to our maturity. So for release orchestration, because we changed, was from minimal to viable, right, Jackie, from like last year? Yeah.
Yes, and yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we're tasked to do this this process where we talk to 5 users, and we have to follow a bunch of steps in order to collect this data. But what happens is that we are already doing this for a job to be done for releases, so which is create a release and update it. I'm not sure if you folks remember, if you're familiar with this topic. I hope you are, because I've been talking about it for, I think, 5 months now. And we're doing all these user interviews together with what also Jackie is doing with customer interviews to validate some of our problems, and Lori's awesome support so that we can collect all this data. So where I am at right now is that, well, we've been validating the same job to be done for a couple of months now. So in a way, we made so many improvements to release orchestration that we managed to move it from minimal to viable before finalizing this whole process. Other designers are still doing it, but we have this issue, this one, right, Jackie? Where Jackie evaluates, I'm gonna add this here to the chat. I cannot find the chat. But here, where Jackie validates based on the trends, and you can see here that, yeah, releases, people are using it, and we're getting so many feedback from users we are using internally. But what I'm doing now is that, yeah, we know that people are using releases, we know that they love releases, they know that there are improvements that we have to make, and we have enough user insights. But in any case, I'm going over this process and collecting all this information that we have in so many different places, because we've conducted interviews of, I don't know, Jackie, 40 plus, and I did 6 user interviews. And we have a lot of data. And what I'm doing right now is to preparing this as some sort of documentation or as a deliverable, so that we can match this. So moving from minimal to viable, while looking at user insights, while looking at data. So what I have is this, and it has a lot of yellow marks. That Lori was great and left a bunch of things I can work on. And what I want to do is to highlight all these steps that we completed since last year, I think since October, November last year, till today. So I already found here that, yeah, in a way we validate this in 3 different phases, as in UX scorecard, so our heuristic evaluation I did last year. Then we reevaluate the job to be done, that is as a release manager here. When tracking important deliverables in my project, I want to easily create and manage releases entries so that I can provide packaged software notes and files for people to use. This is our main job to be done, our task for all the personas that we're covering. So I revalidated this in January, I believe. And the score stayed as is, as an F, because back in January, we didn't have that ability to create a release through the UI. So users can do this through the CLI, and they're super happy with the API capabilities. But then, yeah, before we had that button there was a lot of friction. And in the meantime, we did some validation also on the solutions that we proposed. So this is the prototype phase, where we also talked to, I think we also talked to Michael, right? Yeah, for these interviews, to already collect some data for the improvements that we want to make in the future. So what I am at right now, not super complete, so sorry if I'm not going to tell the full story here, is to collect all these bits of information. For example, who were the participants that we talked to, and what was the profiles, what are the insights that we collected that back up our decisions. And there are some couple of new things, as for example, turning a job to be done into a research scenario. And Laurie already gave some great feedback here on how we can reshape it a little bit. And my next steps are to find what are the gaps that we have in this process, and what we can do to fill in those gaps. So for example, we have a couple of questions regarding to how users are, how did they complete a scenario or in the user interviews, and if they are, what's the name that they use for this? Yeah, and if users are, you know, how difficult or easy it is to complete a task. So for example, creating a release or editing a release. We have this data, but we haven't really asked those questions directly. So at this point, I'm looking back at the data we collected to identify that, okay, when a user tries to create a release with GitLab through the UI, they find it very easy or very difficult, and why. So with this, we're gonna have this documented, and we're gonna be able to look at, yeah, this trend here, but also say, cool, these were all the data that we have, plus the numbers, the increased usage. And yeah, that's it. Now we have a template. I'm not sure if you saw Jackie and Laurie that got merged. So I'm moving this to a template. But I think in general, this is gonna be a good starting point for us to look at the missing pieces for how we made this move. Is that clear? Folks have any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing. And Jackie, do you want to add something to this?
I was just, I'm very impressed with all of your work that you've done on this, Hayana. Thank you for your commitment to it and to vetting out the UX process. Even though Christy has like accepted our move and has declared that OKR is complete, I am very happy that you are validating the data with it, because then the next time we have to do this, when we move release orchestration to complete or secrets management to viable, it'll be really cool to be able to apply this. So I'm excited.
Exactly. And I think the first comment that Laurie made here in this document is that if we, you know, coming back in 6 months and we want to look at this document, it would be nice to, in a way, map out what exactly improved and based on specific user insights, so that we can look at this document as a, you know, a source of truth for, you know, the maturity, this trend for release orchestration. So please feel free to, is this shared here in the document thing?
I added the, yeah. And then the last thing, before I let y'all go and give you some time back, I have started undergoing an environments job to be done research. So we got the survey back, And we found out that people are using environments in all sorts of ways. And I've interviewed about 6 users, still not any clearer on what we should be doing with environments. It is a really big, people are like either abusing environments in a really weird way. So I have this one customer who just spins up random environments to test things in, breaks them down, and then deploys outside of GitLab. So they're deploying multiple times with GitLab to these environments, but they're never production. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jackie, you and I should talk about your interviews and seeing if we can figure out some strategies to get some focus.
And I actually
not that you're not focused, get them to tell you more things that we can find themes in. Yeah.
So tomorrow at 11 Central Time, Lori, I have a meeting with you, me, and Hyana, and hopefully we get to like nail down a scenario that I could start evaluating with users, because today I'm kind of like, my job to be done is I have a merge request or a release that has been approved, and I want to deploy to production so that I can make the product available to my customers to adopt and use, which is all good and fine, but I'm finding that people are deploying, just not to production.
Right.
And that's still using our product. It's just not as what we flagged it as.
Yeah. And I think, and I talked with the UX leadership team about this on Monday, the jobs to be done. So the whole approach that we have to the problem validation piece of our UCD process is very myopic. I know what the problem is. I just want to validate it more, or maybe I want to uncover one or two little things about this problem. What we need to do is we need to back it up so we have a wider lens. And I think you've just uncovered something around that. Like, you went in with a very sharp view of, I just want to understand stuff around this thing. But what did you find out is like, oh shit, there's so much more around it. So I want to encourage you not to freak out because you haven't become able to coalesce around the one thing. What you're actually doing is jobs to be done interviews. And it's a wider lens that we use to do that with. And because we do that, you are going to uncover fringe things and things you never even thought of before that people are doing with this thing called environments, right? So don't feel bad, but let's talk about who you've talked to. What are some similarities across those users or the companies or the setups or something? Because I suspect that maybe they're just different enough between the different people you've talked to that you haven't had a chance to get enough of the same messaging yet, because they're coming in from different places. Like you said, like the one person who's building up and destroying things, they're viewing them as a test environment, right? Which is not what we thought they were going to do. So let's chat about it more tomorrow, but I just wanted to let you know that you're not doing it wrong. I think that what you're doing is, like what I told you before, you guys are the A team, and you're doing it so far ahead of everybody else. You've come across this thing and now you're widening your lens and you're like, oh shit, nothing fits in my smaller view. That's okay.
Totally. And I think for reference, I've just chatted out this epic, and I'll go ahead and share my screen and kind of walk through it. But it looks like most of the people who are interested in environments in general are development team leads or leaders in their organization. So I've included the 6 participants. I've picked a couple of different industries so I could see if this was a consistent industry problem. And you're absolutely right. Like, I was able to distill about 13 shared insights, and they are grouped by persona. Like, naturally, that's what came out of the user interviews, is that the development team leads shared very similar pains. The software engineer and platform engineers shared very similar pains. People that were in aerospace, energy, and high tech shared different pains than people who were in consulting services and digital signage services. So I'll be excited to like decompose this with you, Lori, because
that's great.
I'm not really panicking or anything, but I hate feeling stupid.
Don't feel
stupid. I do have like an arrogant bone in me. So feeling stupid is hard for me to like digest.
No, please don't feel stupid. What you're doing is exactly the right thing. It's just, let's work together to make some more sense of it that you can actually use for your next step of this process, but you've done the right thing. Because what you probably have done once we get into there is you've uncovered other jobs to be done that we didn't even think about. And that's okay. That's what that stage is for. Now let's just work on coalescing down into the job to be done that you need to have to move forward with the task.
And it totally makes sense why we have weak adoption of the environments dashboard. Because if a majority of our customers are just spinning up environments to test with and not deploy to production, monitoring those environments becomes meaningless.
Exactly. I love it. I love this.
It's very cool. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let you all have 7 minutes back to your day, or actually, yeah, 7 minutes back to your day. And if you have any other thoughts about what would make this ThinkBig better, let me know. I can try to focus on one topic and Slack everybody and let us know, like, this is the one topic that I want us to deep dive on. Or if you feel like we should be focusing more on current work in flight, just let me know. I want these to be helpful and useful for you all.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.